Powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to another edition of Unconventional Playbook. Please hit that like and subscribe button. It only takes a second. Listen, man, I wanted to get in here because there are some things that I wanted to talk about in terms of issues that may be going on with the Minnesota Vikings thing. But the one thing I want to touch on first, UP Nation, Skull Nation, Purple Gang, is the little kerfuffle or the intense padded practice that the Minnesota Vikings had last, where there were some hands that were thrown. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, this type of stuff goes on in training camps all around the league every year. But I do think this Minnesota Vikings little scruff up, whatever you want to call it, nothing major, little scruff up is a little bit different. It's a little bit different, man. And I've said it on previous podcasts that I've done that I could feel this thing coming. And again, I don't want to overstate it. I'm not saying that it's a problem, UP Nation, because it's not. I think it's a healthy situation. As a matter of fact, I like to see the intensity, but there is some things that are going on in Vikings training camp. So let me speak about what I think is going on in Vikings training camp. I think there is a little, how shall I state it? I think it's a little civil war going on in Vikings training camp. And I think it starts with B-Flow, and I think it starts with KOC, and this is nowhere near a major schism. I think for everything in terms of relationships with the Minnesota Vikings, I think KOC and B-Flow's relationship is like this, man. It is pretty tight. But those are two of the most competitive brothers that I've ever seen. KOC is deemed an offensive guru genius, whatever title you want to attach to KOC. And then you got Dr. Blitzenstein, who I call him. Some people call him the mad scientist on the defensive side of the ball. Both guys trying to get their areas of expertise ready. And so I think the underlying problem is KOC has essentially a rookie quarterback. I always laugh at people that say, well, J.J. McCarthy's not a rookie. Physically, he is. Mentally, he is. In terms of going up against these type of defenses in practice consistently, he was not afforded that opportunity last year. So we can mix on words if you want, but essentially, he's a rookie. KOC is trying to get this guy together. And on the other side of the ball, man, you've got Brian Flores, who's trying to get his defense together. And here's the thing about a guy that's a mad scientist. There were some people at some point during the year that said there were some offenses during the league that were starting to figure out Brian Flores. Whether that's true, man, I don't know. But they were starting to figure out the scheme of the Minnesota Vikings. So here's what I'm sure Brian Flores did. Went back to the drawing board playbook, and now there are a lot of different alignments that you are going to see installed with the Minnesota Vikings defense. I can guarantee you that, man. You're going to see more exotic looks, probably not during the preseason, but once the season starts than we've ever seen from the Minnesota Vikings defense. And so there's an element of just being lined up in the right place. So now you've got B-Flow on that side of the ball trying to give looks to the offense that maybe they have not seen before. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy is new. He probably hasn't seen that before. And so the argument comes in, do you throw all this stuff at J.J. McCarthy when he's trying to take baby steps in terms of learning the offense, getting developed, getting ready to play during the season? Now, I follow on both sides of the fence. I can see where that would be detrimental to the progression of J.J. McCarthy, but I also see where if he has to go up against that type of stuff every day in practice, that can be beneficial for J.J. McCarthy. But anyway, I've been on a lot of coaching staffs that when you have these two identities, offensive genius, defensive genius, everybody's trying to get their work done. And there are times, I mean, they're human beings. We all are human beings. There are going to come times where you are just annoyed. And I'm sure that there are times where KOC is like, B-Flow, man, what are you doing? Why are you throwing this at JJ? I'm trying to get this done. There are those moments, and those are healthy moments. As a coach, I have had plenty of with my coaching staff. I have one agenda that I would like to get done, and maybe somebody else on my staff has another agenda that he would like to get done or she would like to get done that gets in the way of what I want to do. And so then I have to have communication after practice and coaching meetings saying, hey, this is what needs to happen. But those moments happen all the time. And I'm sure that there's been some moments where there's been just a little bit of frustration. You can hear it in the press conferences. You can hear from some of the players that talk. You can hear from some of the news that's coming out of training camp. And I'm telling you, man, it is healthy. But again, these are human beings. So last padded practice, when you start to put the pads on, there is really no major tackling there, but you're thumping. You're thumping out there. You're going to let guys know that you're there. And so all of this frustration will start to boil over at times. Now, keep in mind, man, B-Flow is a very aggressive coach, and I think he's starting to really stress to the guys a certain mindset with this defense is what's going to make them a top defense in the league. Like, it's not just the physical stuff. It's not just the X's and O's. It is a mindset that you have to have, UP Nation. It's a mindset. And I'm sure every day B-Flow is going through that. There's got to be that mindset. Think about the great defenses in the NFL, man. Think about the Baltimore Ravens when they were at their peak in terms of defense. There was a mindset, man, more than the physical and the X's and O's. So now their defensive players, the Purple's defensive players, are coming out with the mindset. And there's been reports that there's been a lot of trash talking from the defense every time they make a play. They're talking to the offensive coaches. They're talking to J.J. McCarthy. They're talking to the offensive players. You get a lot of that, man. And again, it's around the league. It's healthy. And now that they got the pads on, they're gonna thump some people. Let them know they're there. It's a mindset. So supposedly there was a little check down to Aaron Jones, and Asamoah comes in, and instead of just wrapping Jones up like happens most times, he thumps Jones maybe a little bit too hard. Aaron Jones goes down. Will Fries comes over and is like, man, what's going on? Asamoah swings. Fries is sticking up for his offensive player. You see that. And then on the very next play, again, a little check down to Aaron Jones. Another player up. Forgive me, I can't remember who it was, zoning right now. But then J.J. McCarthy gets in the scrum. And hey, listen, man, I like the fact that J.J. McCarthy is getting into the scrum as well. Shows he's got heart. Shows he's got heart, man. If you got that or you don't got that, but it shows you that this young man is willing to stick up for his teammates. So this scrum was not a big deal, but it kind of shows you the mentality of this football team. And I know KOC kind of frowns upon all of these fights in practice. Like, he does not condone that. Matter of fact, he doesn't have a lot of tolerance for it. But it shows you the mindset of both teams. There's a lot of competitiveness going on. So a lot of people ask me, man, do you think that's a problem? I don't think it's a problem. I just think a lot of it stems from, I told you this, when there were reports coming out that they were throwing the defensive book at JJ, and whether that is good or not, I said, I really don't know whether it's good or not. Football is not the sport that I coach. I know that there are times where you want to develop your players, so you don't want to give him things that maybe he's not prepared, because it stunts development at time. I do believe that. But again, if you make practices harder than games, man, that's where you start to perform in games. So I don't think it's anything detrimental, man. I just think that it is a normal good for the Minnesota Vikings. And I just wanted to come on here and touch on that, because a lot of people ask me, man, is there some sort of schism? There is no schism going on. It's healthy competitiveness. Now you don't want your training camp full of fights, But I think there's a little bit of this defense versus the offense type thing going on. And I think it's more than just, you know, two units going at each other. There's a little bit of, okay, we're here. We're the baddest thing going from the Minnesota Vikings defense. And then you've got on the offensive side of the ball, people trying to establish himself as well and making sure that J.J. McCarthy is ready to play. So I really don't see it as a problem. One thing that I do see as a problem, man, is Will the Thrill is missing kicks. You know, it's easy to forget about special teams. There's been talk about J.J. McCarthy. There's been talk about the offensive line. There's been talk about the defensive line, the new running back, Jordan Mason coming in, y'all, the cornerback situation, the Minnesota Vikings front seven. And with all the news coming out, Will the Thrill, Will Reichard kind of gets forgotten about. We all know the history of Minnesota Vikings and their kicking game, man. That thing is easy to forget about until you really need it. And then when we don't have it, we're in trouble. And this is a team that if they can be really consistent in special team situations, especially field goals, that makes us even better. You know, being on special teams, being good at special teams is never overstated. Like, you got to have great special teams. Will the Thrill started his career well with the Minnesota Vikings. Not missing the kick, big-time kicker from Alabama. Then he got hurt, and he came back, and he was a little inconsistent. Well, now he's fully healthy, and he's missing kicks under 40 yards in practice. I think he missed 3 of them things, man. Like, he's got to get that together. I am not giving up on Will the Thrill. Not by any stretch of the imagination, but he's been missing kicks, man. That could be a problem, especially when you know our history of playing as many single-digit games as we play. Like, we have not shown that we really have the ability to pull away from teams, although I think that's going to be a little bit different this year. But I'm just looking at the resume, man. We've always been tight. We've always been in those games where we're winning games by a touchdown here, a field goal there. So if Will Reichard, Will the Thrill, is not consistent, that's a huge problem for the Minnesota Vikings. And so I think the Minnesota Vikings, what's in their best interest is to bring somebody in that's a legit competition type kicker for Will the Thrill. Sometimes, man, you just need to get refocused. When there's a threat of somebody behind you that's going to take your job. You guys out there that are working 9-to-5 jobs, when you see your company hire someone in your same role for no apparent reason at all, and this person is a hard worker, you feel a little bit threatened, man. You feel a little bit threatened. I think that's the route that the Minnesota Vikings should take with the field goal situation, man, because I'm telling you right now, the word coming out of there is there has been a lot of inconsistency, man. And I just don't want that to overlap until the start of the season. Like, we need to be, especially inside 40 yards, man. I mean, come on. We're not asking you to kick 55-yarders all the time. We're talking about within the 40 yards range, man. You got to be lights out in the 40-yard range, don't you? Skull Nation, Purple Gang, talk to me. Like, don't you got to be lights out? Like, that's an issue that I see within the Minnesota Vikings training camp. Now, if he was missing like 50-yarders, 55-yarders, okay. You give him a little bit of a longer leash, man. But inside 40, like, you gotta get that stuff together. You got to get that stuff together. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Just takes a second. Just hit it right now. Help me continue to pump out the content and show up on your algorithm. TJ Hockenson limped out of a drill in the last padded practice. It's an issue. It's an issue, UP Nation. It's an issue because you know Addison's going to be out. Naylor has not proven that he's that number 2. And again, man, with wide receivers and running backs, I hate to hear hamstring, groin pulls, and it sounds like TJ has a lower body injury. Most people think it's a groin pull. I haven't heard specifically. But again, man, this is another one of these situations where I will say, put him on the shelf. Put him on the shelf. TJ Hockenson has its history, has not been a resume of health. And if you're going to have Addison out, you got JJ back there. And we all know that TJ is going to be JJ's insurance policy. You got to make sure that TJ's ready, dog. You got to make sure that TJ is ready to go. Chicago Bears, Monday Night Football, first game of the season, man. I'm telling you, this is just common sense stuff. You got to put him on the shelf, because if you don't, and you bring him back when he's like 95% and 90% and all of this stuff, that injury, those type of injuries linger. The 3 injuries I hate is groin pulls, hamstrings, and turf toe. Like, those injuries don't go away quick. And there's a pretty good chance that even when there are no symptoms and signs, that the injury is still there at some point in time during the season. Those things just kind of creep back. And you're talking about a guy that is pushing against defensive linemen and running routes, man. You got to make sure next time he hits the field that if it is legitly a groin pull, that he is 100% healthy and 100% ready to go. No rush. I don't want to hear, oh, you got to build chemistry. I don't want to hear that. Build chemistry later. Health right now. Health right now. Health right now. So the receiving core is starting to get depleted. I'm not a big Speedy Naylor guy. I know he's had his moments in purple, man, but you can't rely on those hands. You can't rely on those hands. You can't. I know we got Ty Felton that's looking decent in camp. He's not really a handsy guy. You got Rondale Moore. Will he stay healthy? Is he a legit number 3 wide receiver, man? We just don't know what we don't know yet. That's why I'm looking forward to these preseason games, man, so we can start checking some of these guys out. When you look at, for those of you who have gone to training camp, or those of you that are planning to go to training camp, one thing that's really stood out to me, UP Nation, Purple Gang, Skull Nation, is next time you go to training camp, man, or you're watching the preseason game, and I don't know how much run this brother's going to get in preseason games, but when you go to camp, when you go to practices, man, check out Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason, not that Aaron Jones is going to get less reps or his role is going to be depleted, but Jordan Mason, man, is coming. That dude's legs, it's like tree trunks. And he runs not to get yards, but he runs, and that's silly to say. He runs to run through you. He is a locomotive coming downhill. He's not an easy stop. He's someone where you're going to stick your shoulder and your neck in there to bring him down in terms of the lower body, and I guarantee you're not going to do that again. Like, you're going to see guys that are going to go down by the ankles to try to bring him down, because you're not going to be able to bring him down up top. And if you get down by those quads, you're going to pay for it. This dude is thick in the quad area, and he runs aggressively. He runs angry. It is why I know that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be improved in the red zone, because I'm telling you right now, if they go 3 wide receiver sets with 1 tight end, and they run any sort of option for Jordan Mason, I have a hard time seeing an instance where he's not getting in a lot, especially when he gets up to speed. And I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to put him deeper in the backfield than normal. Like, I've been kind of noticing that, where he can get up some speed, man, and once he gets to that line, it's going to be some issues for defensive players. Like, this guy runs hard, and I think he's going to lead the Minnesota Vikings running back room in touchdowns this year. Like, there is just no question about that in my mind. Keep your eye on Jordan Mason, man. I like the kid. I think by the end of the season, in terms of running backs, he's going to be getting the most carries out of all the running backs in that running back room because this dude is legit. Go to training camp, keep your eyes on him. Yeah, a couple of things coming out of training camp, man, that I just wanted to talk about. As always, this is Unconventional Playbook. Again, please hit that like and subscribe button. Continue to keep content in the algorithm so I can just keep pumping it out to you guys. Hats off to UP Nation, Skull Nation, Purple Nation, and my guys in the Purple Gang. Can't wait for Skull Fest. I'm looking forward to Skull Fest, meeting all of the Purple Gang, Skull Nation out there, man. Counting down the days. Will definitely be making an appearance. This is Unconventional Playbook, and as always, we will make sure to see you when we see you. Scope.